Now, at least 5 top figures of Pakistan-based banned outfits like the Lashkar-e-Taiba and the Jaish-e-Mohammed were killed in Operation Sindur. Now, these are said to be high-value targets and some of the core decision makers in these two organizations that have been inimical to India's interest in Kashmir. Now, they include Mudassir Khadian Khas, also known as Mudassir, and Abu Jundal, in charge of the LET's headquarters, Markaz Taiba in Pakistan's Muridke. Now, this is said to be the ideological center that was targeted by the Indian Air Force to give a message as well as to damage the ideological center of the LET. Meanwhile, JEM Chief Masood Azhar's eldest brother-in-law, Hafiz Mohammed Jamil, has also been eliminated in the strikes as well. And another brother-in-law, Mohammad Yusuf Azhar, who also operated under the code names Ustad Ji, Mohammad Salim and Gosi Sahib, have been in fact eliminated. 2 others have been identified by the Indian government agencies as Khalid of the LET and Mohammad Hassan Khan of the JEM. Now, these terrorists were in fact targeted by Operation Sindur to give a huge blow to these organizations that had engaged in terror activities against India. In fact, we are joined in by Air Marshal VPS Rana, who is a defense and strategic expert. Air Marshal, you know, when we look at these operations, there is an Israeli factor to this, isn't it? The elimination of top or a leadership section of the JEM as well as the LET that tends to cripple its leadership chain of command. And this has an Israeli touch to it, the Israeli strategic touch to it, and the use of air power to eliminate them as well. So do you think that we are now slowly approaching those strategies that Israel has taken when it comes to eliminating terrorist leadership?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this was overdue. We've been planning all this, and we have seen how successfully Israel does all these operations. Now we are also equipped with similar kind of high technology weapons, which can be used to take out very precisely wherever they are. But this needs to be equipped with the kind of intelligence that can give you a very precise information of the whereabouts and the locations. And in this case, I'm very happy that at least we were able to get those kind of intelligence, and we were able to pinpoint, target without any collateral damage, and drive home the point that wherever you are, we will get you.
Well, also, when it comes to air power, Air Marshal, I mean, it is an extensive use of air power that we've seen, whether it is Balakot or when it comes to Operation Sindur. Now, do you think that the entire dynamics is changing, that the first go-to force for any kind of reply, and probably when we've seen how it's working out in world environment as well, that the Air Force is now taking precedence over the other forces as of now when it comes to the first initial response?
Absolutely, because the very nature of the air operations is such that without much of damage to the civilian populace, without any collateral damage to that side, and also because we today have the capability of a stand of weaponry, smart munitions, which we can employ from being totally away from the air defense weapons of the enemy or air defense capabilities of the enemy. So that is why it makes it a natural choice with the kind of result that you achieve, with kind of precision with which you strike. It is only natural that the air forces and the air power be used for such operations, and prepare the battlefield thereafter for further operations, so that you incur minimum losses to your security forces and also to your equipment.
Well, in fact, stay with us, Air Marshal. We have some breaking that is coming in as of now. What we understand is that after Trump has in fact said that proud of India and Pak leadership, He said Trump, US has helped broker this decision for cessation of hostilities will boost trade with both nations, is what Trump has in fact said. Trump said time to work on Kashmir solution. And Trump said he's in fact proud of the India-Pak leadership for ensuring that cessation of hostilities in fact happened. For more on this, I'm joined in by Karthik Malhotra on this particular aspect. Karthik, Trump says that very proud of the leadership, and he says that there should be some kind of solution to the Kashmir issue. But has he in fact have an idea of how complex the situation has been from the recent statements that he's made? Because it looks like mostly it is Marco Rubio who's been on the sidelines understanding the kind of situation is, and then you have Vice President VP Vance who's been in touch with the subcontinental staff, being able to understand the ground realities. But from initiating something on Kashmir is a little bit too much, because don't you think, because it has been an issue that has been agreed for bilateral kind of settling of issues with regard to India and Pakistan, that Kashmir will be a bilateral issue settled. It wouldn't, I mean, are we inviting internationalization of Kashmir unnecessarily when it comes to this?
You're right, Varghese. I think a very valid question, and my simple answer to that is that India has not gone out asking for the help of US intervention. In fact, if anything, it seems, at least from our understanding and having spoken to some policy experts, geopolitical and geostrategy experts, it seems that perhaps it would have been Pakistan that would have knocked on the doors of US asking for mediation, given the kind of resistance that it faced from the Indian armed forces, especially the Indian air defenses, and of course the strikes that India has made inside Pakistan, hitting few of its air bases as well as radar units. Now, the point is that it seems, at least from what we are reading and what we have been seeing ever since April 22nd, the Pahalgam issue, what Trump has been stating publicly, either on board Air Force One or even on his Truth Social platform. I mean, somebody's got to fact check Donald Trump also when he says that the India-Pakistan issue over Kashmir is 1,000 years old, 1,500 years old, centuries old. Obviously, nobody has read him into the real issue between India and Pakistan over Kashmir, and his dateline is definitely misplaced. And more importantly, I think, you know, was there real need for US to try and broker peace? Well, definitely not what India would have initiated and prompted from our understanding right now, Varghese. But more so at the end of the day, again, look at the statements that Donald Trump is making, and he's saying that he's going to work out a deal. He's going to increase trade with India and Pakistan. At the end of the day, everything is not about trade. Everything is not about deal making, and everything is not about negotiating something better for the US. There is
in fact trying to come to Karthik, that you found Osama bin Laden in Pakistan's military cantonment, and you're talking about trade.
Abbottabad is where the US itself sent its choppers and its Marines and its Navy SEALs and actually found Osama bin Laden, one of the biggest perpetrators of a terrorist act on US soil against US citizens. That particular terrorist was found and captured in Pakistan. And here we have US coming and trying to lecture us on how India and Pakistan should resolve their differences, where the fundamental crux of that differences emanating over Kashmir happen to be so intrinsically linked to terrorism.
So I'll just read the entire quote that has been put out on Truth Social. I'm proud that USA was able to help you arrive at this historic and heroic decision while not even discussed. I'm going to increase trade substantially with both of these great nations. Additionally, I will work with both to see if after 1,000 years a solution can be arrived at the concerning Kashmir. I think he still reiterates that 1,000 years is what it has been. Karthik, I mean, I think you have a US president who's completely clueless.
I mean, I couldn't agree more with you, Varghese. And of course, look at the number of times he has also changed his stance. Because first, when the horrific April 22nd Pahalgam attacks took place on Indian soil, and we know that that was perpetrated by Pakistan-based terrorist organization Lashkar-e-Taiba, which has its affiliate, the Resistance Front, or TRF. I think at that time, the message that came from the US, from President Donald Trump, was that he stands, in fact, he was one of the first people to tweet out and also pick up the phone on Prime Minister Modi and say that he stands with India on India's fight against terror. Cut to maybe a day or two later, On board Air Force One, he goes and says that he's great friends with India, but guess what? He's also great friends with Pakistan, and he wants to ensure that there is lasting peace in the region. Thereafter, you also had statements coming in from J.D. Vance, who said that whatever happens between India and Pakistan is none of US's business. And then, of course, what ensued was Marco Rubio's phone call, who was speaking to his Indian counterparts as well as military establishment in Pakistan in his capacity as Secretary of State and as well as the National Security Advisor. So there have been conflicting messaging coming from the US as well. And the fact that even today, a day after technically ceasefire, if we were to call it that, because that ceasefire was again violated, broken by Pakistan, the fact that Donald Trump is still coming on his Truth Social platform and saying that he wants to make a deal, he wants to trade with India and Pakistan, that still seems to be top of his mind. And more interestingly, he's still referring to the problem being 1,000 years old. Well, somebody's got to read his, the history of India and Pakistan to him. The countries became two separate countries only in 1947. That is definitely not 1,000 years ago, Varghese.
Yes, Karthik, thank you for joining us with all those details. And of course, again, Trump saying that he's very proud and about India and Pakistan and that he will increase trade with them, and says that the issue is 1,000 years old. Well, we're also joined in by Lieutenant General A.B. Shivani, retired, a former Director General of Mechanized Forces. General Shivani, one thing that, we were just discussing about how Trump, in fact, sees this entire aspect of India-Pakistan relations completely clueless about what is actually happening. 1,000 years of fighting that is there. He's planning to increase trade with a nation that had, in fact, protected the most wanted terrorist in their own army cantonment. So how do you, in fact, react to that?
Absolutely. Varghese, thank you very much for getting me on the show. Let's be very clear. In this world, there's not, only self-interest. There's no other interests. India will have to fight its own wars and its own trouble points, and we are very capable of it. As regards US, there are too many contradictions. President Trump's break talk is out of the hat without a basic. It's Trump rants. There are contradictions of vice president and president's messaging. And of course, what is the history of United States? Unilateralism, duplicity, you can't forget it. So taking credit for such a thing without understanding the Indo-Pak dynamics, I find it hilarious. And I want to ask President Trump through your channel and the American this thing, 3 or 4 simple questions which are very difficult for them to answer. My first question is, will Pak reform? And what will make them reform, Mr. Trump? 2, how do you define normalcy? Is it till the next, is it a pause till the next thing happens? Can you assure that? 3, how is justice being done to eliminate the terrorists of Pahalgam? And 4, is the strategy of mowing the lawn is a continuous state of conflict, or is a better strategy of removing the roots from the caustic soil? So please understand India. We will strategize and re-strategize and find a solution as such. Economics of war are important, but more important than that is national pride, resolve, and protection of its citizens and its territory. So please leave us to do that. Thank you very much. Back to you, Varghese.
Well,